for veterans should never go to convicted murderers. Let us be united in condemning what has transpired and pledge to never let it happen ever again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris will have 5 minutes of questions coming to him when we resume debates. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to rise today in this place, and I begin by acknowledging we're on the traditional territory of the Algonquins people.
We are here today because today, at the University of Victoria, it marks the beginning of a historic program.
There is the launch of a long-awaited historic first. The world's first law program, a degree-granting program in Indigenous law. And I couldn't be more honored to be able to recognize today, I would have liked to have been there with them, but John Burrows, who holds the Canada Research Chair in Indigenous Law, Val Napoleon, who is also engaged with this issue as the Law Foundation Chair in Aboriginal Justice and Governance, are launching a program that is rooted in the earth, looking to Indigenous law as well as common law to direct Canada's future. To them I say, Haishka Siam. I raise my hands to you, all honor. Thank you, Miigwech.
L'honorable député d'Ottawa-Vanier.
The honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier. Mr. Speaker, it's National Coaches Day.
Thank their coaches for all they do for our kids and our communities. As a mother of 3 children who all have marvelous coaches, I have seen firsthand how important they are in shaping our youth. Par leur travail, les
Through their work, coaches contribute to make Canada a healthy country.
Competing in the Olympics, our coaches are always there to support, inspire, and guide us not only in sport, but in life as well. We know that most coaches are volunteers who contribute their time to help our youth from across the country to learn. Alors cette semaine, c'est
So this week it's our turn to encourage them. Let's say thanks to them. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all the good they do.
All members to celebrate coaches using #ThanksCoach, mot-clic Merci Coach. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, we know that agriculture is the backbone of the Canadian economy. The International Ploughing Match was held last week in Chatham, Kent, near Paincourt, on 850 acres of land in Lambton, Kent, Middlesex. This annual event is one of the best in Canada that celebrates our agriculture industry and provides learning experiences for urban and rural folks and thousands of school children. Mr. Speaker, it would not have been possible without the help of 1,000 volunteers who dedicated time, land, and resources. In particular, I want to thank Jean-Marie and Lucille Laprise, the host farmers and co-chairs Leon Leclerc and Darren Caniff. The IPM was a great opportunity to showcase one of the most productive agriculture areas in Canada and talk about the career opportunities in our agriculture industry. Thanks again to all the volunteers.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Coastal Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in memory of a truly great man, Reverend Wesley Oak, who passed away on September 16th at the age of 96. Growing up in Notre Dame Bay, Reverend Oak was one of the last World War II veterans from Newfoundland and Labrador, having served in the 166th Newfoundland Field Regiment. He fought mainly in Italy, but was also active in England and Africa. He spoke openly about the time he spent serving and has provided us with honest stories and the hard truths of what wartime was like. After serving in the war, he was ordained as a minister in the United Church for 22 years, serving God and his congregation. One thing that Reverend Oak will always be remembered for is a fundraiser he did for Ganders Heritage Memorial Park. He raised $35,000 at the age of 92. And at 92, he also went skydiving at 10,000 feet. Wow. He leaves behind his wife Myrtle, with whom today he would have celebrated his 72nd wedding anniversary. We will always miss you, Reverend Oak, and for making this country better and safe.
The honourable member for Elmwood-Transcona.
People in Northeast Winnipeg are fed up with scam phone calls. They're among the thousands of Canadians that every year are harassed on the phone by unscrupulous con artists. Some fall victim to these schemes, losing their life savings and their sense of trust in the world around them. My office is receiving more and more reports of these calls. The people on the line pretend to be in a position of authority and threaten legal action if their target doesn't agree to pay a bogus fee. Some people are getting one or more calls a day, and they're reaching their wits' end. While Canadians are encouraged to report these scams to the RCMP's Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, too often they're met with a busy signal. When that happens, the information that should help international law enforcement find and shut these guys down doesn't get to where it needs to go. Clearly, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre needs more resources to do its job protecting Canadians from these ill-willed and irritating invasions of their privacy. I call on the government to do so. Thank you.
Honourable member for Sydney Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, September is Dystonia Awareness Month. It is estimated that 50,000 Canadians have this disease, which is the third most common movement disorder following tremors and Parkinson's disease. Those with dystonia suffer from painful involuntary muscle contractions on any part of their body, including their arms, legs, face, and vocal cords. On top of this physical pain, those with dystonia often experience depression, anxiety, and social phobias. Mr. Speaker, there is a low awareness of dystonia, and the biggest challenge can be getting the proper diagnosis. There is no known cure for the disease, but we must raise the awareness. This disease has been brought to my attention by a fellow Cape Bretoner, Jason Young. He was instrumental in getting the world's largest fiddle in Sydney lit up blue for the month of September to raise awareness. To those who live and fight this battle, know that you are not alone. And it's my hope that together we can promote, educate, and find a cure for this terrible disease.
The honourable member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, over the course of the summer, I had the pleasure of speaking to thousands of constituents. One such group was the Nicaraguan community, whom I had the pleasure of meeting with recently. The situation in Nicaragua has continued to deteriorate over the past months, and the Ortega regime continued to resort to violent oppression of the Nicaraguans' rights. Enforced disappearances, assaults, and even murder are tragically being employed to prevent people from protesting. Statements and condemnation from the international community have done a little, and then has frustrated many of my Nicaraguan constituents. That's why I was happy to sponsor their petition E1804, calling on the government to sanction members of the Ortega regime with Canada Magnitsky Act. I encourage all Canadians to support this important petition and concrete steps to take and the tragic events in Nicaragua. Thank you.
The honourable member for Orleans.
Merci, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, September 25, is Franco-Ontarian Day. For those in the House who might not know it, Franco-Ontarians are Canadians who live in Ontario and speak in French. Today is a day to celebrate the Francophone community and its history, which goes back to over 400 years. It's also a day to reflect on our past. At the start of the 20th century, Franco-Ontarians were unable to maintain French in schools following the adoption of Regulation 17, which imposed English as the only teaching language in Ontario schools. But thankfully, Franco-Ontarians protested and then created their own school system to help keep their communities whole. Today, our Franco-Ontarian identity is dynamic and strong, thanks to those who speak French. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Nickel Belt. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to share some excellent news with you about the success of Franco Cité High School, which I attended.
Applicants from Canada and the U.S. and were selected as the recipients of the Rydell 18 and 18 Smarter Football Program. The school was offered congratulations from arguably one of the NFL's greatest quarterbacks, Mr. Preston Manning. Manning est ambassadeur et
Mr. Manning is an ambassador for his sport, and he personally sent a video congratulating the school for winning this grant.
Roots movement that recognizes and rewards teams for implementing smarter tactics on and off the field. I wish to congratulate the faculty, the students at Franco Cité. J'aimerais, de la part de tout le monde ici.
Please join me, everyone, in wishing an excellent school year and a successful sports season at Franco Cité. Go, Patriots, go! Happy Franco-Ontarian Day.
The honourable member for Dauphin Swan River Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, on the evening of August 29th, RCMP Corporal Graham Kingdon was shot while responding with his partner to a reported break and enter at a rural property near Onnell, Manitoba. Corporal Kingdon was transported by ambulance and then in a STARS helicopter to receive treatment in Winnipeg. Fortunately, the gunshot wound was not life-threatening, and he is now back at home with his family. Many people deserve recognition for their work that day. The emergency medical responders, STARS Air Ambulance, the Riding Mountain National Park wardens, the rural municipality of Harrison Park, and the RCMP communications team. I also want to acknowledge the strength of local residents who rallied in support of their community during this dire time, and law enforcement officers. Finally, I need to recognize the many brave RCMP officers who conducted a dangerous manhunt through the night, resulting in the arrest of 4 suspects. I am grateful for the bravery of each of them, along with Corporal Graham Kingdon and all the other officers of my constituency, and I want to thank them for all they do to protect our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Fredericton.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je me lève aujourd'hui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to offer my sincere thanks to all New Brunswickers who played a role in the success of the election which happened last night. To all candidates, congratulations for working so hard over the last few weeks. Thank you to all the officials who also did their part at the polling stations. Thank you for being there for our candidates and for the political parties. Lastly, I would like to thank all of the volunteers who worked tirelessly over the last few weeks.
Volunteers help our candidates so much during an election campaign. Volunteers donate their hard-earned dollars. Volunteers make sandwiches and cook dinner. Volunteers provide energy and support for candidates who are tired as they knock on doors and make phone calls. Everybody in this chamber, I know, appreciates the work of volunteers who support them on the campaign trail. To our volunteers, merci beaucoup.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, for this first Gender Equality Week, I decided to capture the thoughts of some young people on the benefits. Johnny Chavan, a 5th grader from Jack Minor, who happens to be my son, said Gender Equality Week allows us to ensure that all people are recognized for what they do for Canada and that people can be successful no matter their gender. Faye Johnstone, a fierce, trans, feminine, and non-binary Twitter follower of mine, said that it is an opportunity to applaud the progress that we've made, but to be honest about surviving and thriving under the harsh realities of patriarchy, transphobia, and other forms of oppression, and to ensure that the voices and realities of gender diverse and marginalized communities are centered in the fight for gender equality. And lastly, Brianne Olu-Cole, a grade 6 female student at Captain Michael Vandenbos, said that this week is important so that society knows that no gender is superior to another and that we are all equal. Mr. Speaker, our young people get it. Happy Gender Equality Week.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, this week we celebrate just that. We celebrate women's equality, and Conservatives are proud advocates for the equal and fair treatment of women. As we celebrate this important week, however, we are confronted by a very grave atrocity that the Liberal government fails to acknowledge. The Prime Minister has signed off on giving veterans benefits to a man who viciously killed an off-duty police officer. Over and over again in question period, the Liberals continue to defend Chris Garnier, the killer, a man who brutally murdered off-duty police officer Catherine Campbell. During Women's Equality Week, we should be celebrating women like Catherine. Catherine was a young woman who overcame barriers in order to work in a male-dominated field of law enforcement. Catherine served her community as a volunteer firefighter for 10 years, and Catherine served as a role model to many, many people, women and men alike. In defense of equality, Conservatives will continue to call upon this government to respect the memory of Catherine Campbell. We ask the government to reverse its decision to grant veterans funding to the man who brutally took her life.
The honourable member for Buena Vista, Buren, Trinity.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Mr. Eddie Lake, a resident of Fortune in my riding. Mr. Lake is a decorated Second World War veteran who celebrated his 100th birthday on August 12th. Mr. Lake was in active military service for 5 years from 1940 to 1945. After 2 years of service in the Mediterranean Sea, he went home for leave. On his journey home, Mr. Lake was aboard the SS Caribou as it was attacked by a German U-boat and sank on October 14, 1942 in the Cabot Strait. Mr. Lake went on to serve in the invasions of Sicily, Salerno, Anzio, and Normandy, and at the end of the war in Europe, he volunteered to go to the Pacific. But his request was not granted, and he was told, "We think you've had enough." Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all of the residents of Bonavista Beer and Trinity, and indeed all Canadians, I want to thank Mr. Eddie Lake for his service and wish him all the best in his 100th year.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
In May of 2016, I warned the government to protect Canadians from CRA telephone scams from India. Their inaction is obscene. The government has over 60,000 recorded complaints around fraudulent calls from criminals impersonating CRA agents, demanding payment, threatening legal action, even incarceration. Millions of dollars have been scammed, but still nothing from the Liberals. They never do the hard work. While the Prime Minister was in India, he was more concerned about the optics of his junket and his dress rather than doing anything to protect Canadians from fraudsters and organized criminals stealing money from Canadians. Why did he not raise this issue? The Minister of Public Safety's indifference and incompetence with respect to Canadians' privacy and protecting these victims of scams is nothing short of scandalous and out of touch. I encourage all Canadians to call the Minister at 613-947-1153 to do something about this.
The honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Blaine Higgs and the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick on winning 22 seats, the most seats in the legislature last night. I, like other Canadians, were watching this election closely, and we see this as proof that New Brunswickers stand with Saskatchewan, Ontario, Manitoba, and would fight against the Prime Minister's carbon tariffs. Evidence that the people of New Brunswick will not be bystanders. They used their voice and chose to fight back against an unfair tax. Blaine Higgs and his entire Progressive Conservative team worked tirelessly over the campaign trail, putting New Brunswickers first, and committed to meet their environmental obligations without digging deeper in the taxpayer's pocket. We look forward to working with them.
The honourable member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, September 25 is Franco-Ontarian Day. Today, I had the opportunity to celebrate this great day with the Minister for Canadian Heritage and Multiculturalism at the L'Escale High School in Rockland. Our ancestors would be proud of the sense of initiative and creativity which our school boards have shown in organizing the celebrations. We've come a long way since Regulation 17, since the creation of our school boards, and since the fight to save Montfort Hospital. But we must remain resilient. Thank you to organizations like l'ACFO Prescott Russell, the Assemblée de la Francophonie de l'Ontario, the CALEX, and all of our partners who are doing essential work to not only preserve but also promote Franco-Ontarian communities. Mr. Speaker, today I saw that the students at L'Escale and in Ontario are ready and willing to take up the torch and lead the way towards a better future. Happy Franco-Ontarian Day to all.
Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's record on Veterans Affairs is abysmal. First, he forced veterans back to court in order to prevent having to pay them the benefits he promised. Then he left over $300 million in funding unspent on veteran services. And the backlog for veterans waiting to have their benefits processed has risen by over 50%. But to add disgusting insult to that injury, the department is now using veterans' money on a convicted killer. Will the Prime Minister finally do the right thing and cancel these benefits for this country?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the health and well-being of our veterans is our top priority. I have reviewed the department's findings on this issue, and I am directing them to ensure that services received by a family member of a veteran are related to the veteran's service, and where they are not, that the case be reviewed by a senior official. I am directing the department to immediately address its policy in providing treatment to family members under extenuating circumstances such as conviction of such a serious crime. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Mr. Speaker, the summer has passed, and after the Prime Minister guaranteed that the Trans Mountain project would be started this summer, the thousands of out-of-work energy workers in this country have been left disappointed. We are now nearing the end of September. The Prime Minister promised that he would introduce legislation that would allow the Trans Mountain project to be built. Will he introduce that legislation today?
Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what we heard yesterday from the Leader of the Official Opposition was the failed policies of the Harper era. The decade of failure was completely demonstrated yesterday when the leader of the official opposition showed complete disregard for the courts, complete disregard for the environment, and complete disregard for the consultation with indigenous peoples. We are focused on getting this project back on track in the right way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The Honourable Opposition House Leader, of course, knows that her side has other turns, and so I'd ask her to wait for those and allow those who have the floor to speak and not be interrupted. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister well knows that the previous Conservative government saw 4 major pipeline approvals approved and built under our government. But that wasn't the question. The question was the Prime Minister guaranteed that this project would be started this summer. He also promised legislation that would provide a path for the Trans Mountain project to be built. It's now the end of September. Will the Prime Minister introduce that legislation today?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the failed record of the Harper government to build a single pipeline to expand our global non-U.S. markets. When they got in office in 2006, 99% of Alberta's oil was sold to the United States. When they left office in 2015, 99% of Alberta's oil was sold to the United States. We are focused on expanding our global market so we can create more jobs for the middle class, so we can get a proper price for Alberta's oil and continue to grow our economy in the way that works.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we Conservatives think Trans Mountain is essential and critical for the economy of all Canadians. But what is the Liberal government doing? After having sent $4.5 billion to Houston, they seem pleased with the postponement. What a Liberal failure. Can the Liberal government give us a date? When will work begin on Trans Mountain?
Mr. Speaker, we understand that the investment in the Trans Mountain pipeline project is in the national interest. That's why we are moving forward on this project in the right way, making sure that we are respecting in our obligations to meaningfully consult with indigenous peoples, at the same time having a plan in place that allows us to protect the coastal communities, allows us to take action on the impact of the tanker traffic on the marine environment. We are committed to getting this project in the right way, Speaker.
The Honourable Member, Mr. Speaker, you'll have noticed that they can't tell us when the government will begin work on Trans Mountain. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister does not believe in Canada's energy potential. Now, I think that the Prime Minister wants to see it eliminated. On this side, we have a plan, constructive and realistic plan. Does the government agree that we should bring in legislation, make this a national project.
Mr. Speaker, for years, the previous government cut corners. They disregarded the environmental regulations and they ignored the indigenous people's right to be meaningfully consulted. And the result, not a single kilometer of pipeline built to get our resources to the global market. We are going to do things differently. We're going to consult with the indigenous peoples. We're going to make sure that we're taking action on protecting coastal communities, that we're taking action to ensure that the impact of the tanker traffic is meaningfully and properly considered. That's
the
honourable member for Rimouski-Néchet-Témiscouata-Les-Basques.
That's a message being delivered to this government from the Union of British Columbia Indian Chiefs. They're calling on this Prime Minister to cancel his directive to redo his failed process on the Trans Mountain expansion, doubling down on getting through the same flawed process to attain the court's bare minimum standard does not qualify as a meaningful consultation. Do Liberals understand that it takes much, much more to meaningfully consult with Indigenous peoples?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that no relationship is more important to our government than the relationship with Indigenous peoples. We have committed to moving forward on this project in the right way. We have instructed the NEB to undertake the review that was denied by the previous Conservative government to factor in the impact of the marine shipping on the marine environment. We will be announcing the rest of the plan very, very shortly, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member. Mr. Speaker, this rhetoric, as we just heard with the minister, and then there are facts. We have two parties who want, whatever the cost, to force the expansion of Trans Mountain. They want to do the absolute minimum to respond to the Federal Court of Appeal, and worse, they may want to do away outright with consultations with Indigenous communities. They have to hold consultations, meaningful consultations with the people who will have to live with this pipeline and the risks of leaks. Do they not understand that Indigenous people have rights on their land?
Speaker, the issue that the member of the NDP is not focused on is that we need to make sure that we are expanding our global market for our natural resources. That is why it is very important that we do it in the right way, which includes meaningful consultation with the indigenous communities, at the same time making sure that we're protecting our environment, that we are looking after the issues that court has identified. It is very important that we reduce our dependency on the single customer that we have, which is the United States, to sell our oil resources.
The honourable member for Abitibi, James Bay.
Will be done no matter what. And his minister adds that Canada will not be able to accommodate all Indigenous concerns. What that means is that they have decided to willfully violate their constitutional duties and obligations. Mr. Minister, Mr. Speaker, sounds like a most important relationship, doesn't it? Why doesn't the Prime Minister just say the truth and tell the Indigenous peoples that he doesn't give a fuck about their rights?
The honourable member for Abitibi Bay James Nunavut EU is an experienced member and knows that that is unparliamentary language, and I'd ask him to withdraw the word and apologize.
Mr. Speaker, what is happening is so insulting that it makes me so angry, but I do withdraw the word. I sincerely thank the honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, we have a tremendous amount of respect for Indigenous Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Since being appointed to this office, this department, I have been reaching out to Indigenous leaders before even the court's decision. And I will continue to do so. As I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, there's no relationship more important to our government than the relationship with Indigenous peoples, and we're going to move forward on this project in the right way, making sure that we're meeting our constitutional obligations to meaningfully consult with Indigenous.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this certainly doesn't feel like respect to many Indigenous communities across this country. The Union of BC Chiefs are calling for this Prime Minister to accept the federal court's decision once and for all and cancel the expansion of this disastrous Trans Mountain Pipeline and Taker project. How can this government stand in this House, in this country, and say that this is their most important relationship?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, like all other Canadians, there are diverse views among Indigenous peoples on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. We respect that and we value that. There are a number of First Nations communities that have signed benefit agreements because they see the value of this project, and there are other communities that are against it. And we will work with all of them because we understand that try to build a consensus is something that is important for a project such as this to move forward in the right way.
Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Christopher Garnier was convicted of second-degree murder when he murdered a female police officer by the name of Catherine Campbell. Apparently, he now suffers from PTSD as a result of committing the murder. Veterans Affairs Canada is paying for services for Mr. Garnier. The murderer has been put to the front of the line while our men and women who served our country are not receiving benefits because they're still waiting. Mr. Speaker, what I'd like to know from the Minister of Veterans Affairs, will he do the right thing and cancel the benefits that Mr. Garnier is receiving?
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it is moments like this that our commitment to our veterans is tested. We cannot discuss the treatment of this individual without discussing the treatment of the father, without discussing the treatment of the veteran. And I stand before this House as someone who will not infringe upon the privacy of that veteran. We all know because of their track record what that side of the House would have us do because they did it before. They played with veterans' health records like they were playing cards. We will not. Even in this most trying of times, we will not.
Order. The Honourable Member for Milton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what can I say? On August 31st, this minister, the Minister of Veterans Affairs, indicated that he was going to ask his department what had happened and get to the bottom of it. He told a newspaper report that. It's taken 25 days to get to the bottom of this. Now, Speaker, I served as a minister. And as a result, I know that you can get this information in 24 hours, not in 24 days. Mr. Speaker, I want to know this very specifically. Will people who are receiving benefits that have committed heinous crimes like murder have their payments taken away retroactively?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I cannot discuss this case. And I cannot discuss this case without infringing upon the privacy of a veteran. I will not play games with veterans. I will not, even in this most trying and egregious of times, when the son of a veteran is a convicted cop killer, I will not turn my back on that veteran. And for any veteran who is watching this debate, let them know this government, even under the most extenuating of circumstances, will not turn their back on veterans.
Order. Order. Alors, l'honorable député de Richmond.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, in 2017, Christopher Garnier was found guilty of the second-degree murder of Constable Catherine Campbell. This man is receiving benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs while he is in prison and has never served in the Canadian Armed Forces. This is a disgrace for our country, for our veterans, and for the memory of Constable Catherine Campbell. Can the Prime Minister finally shoulder his responsibilities and put an end to this injustice immediately? The Honourable Minister.
Extenuating of circumstances, we will stand by our veterans. We have shown that time and again. We have shown that time and again, Mr. Speaker, when we have increased benefits for veterans, we have increased services. We have reopened offices. We have increased staff. We have given them back their ID card, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to show respect for veterans, even in this most trying of times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, the facts are simple. The Minister of Veterans Affairs is presently paying for the treatment of Christopher Garnier, even though he killed Constable Catherine Campbell. This is quite simply outrageous. The Campbell family is angry, veterans are angry, Canadians are angry, we are angry. This just doesn't make sense. The Prime Minister has the power to put an end to this injustice and do it. What is he waiting for? The Honourable Minister.
Many people in this House have expressed their outrage. Canadians have expressed their outrage. But our outrage will not factor into the treatment of veterans. Our outrage should not factor into justice and into laws. We will stand by our veterans, Mr. Speaker, even now, even in the most extenuating of circumstances. We will stand by our veterans.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Today by the Minister are obvious.
Order. The member started a little early. I'm going to ask him to start again. The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker. Today, the comments in the debate around the Chris Garnier case shows a clear lack of leadership and the ability that this minister has and the Prime Minister to intervene and stop this outrageous situation where this murderer is receiving veterans' benefits. This is not a theater today for this minister to pat himself on the back. This is a place where we ask him to solve this now or resign.
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs. Order.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, this House was used as a place where people on that side of that House cut benefits, cut services, closed offices, cut staff, took away an ID card from veterans. We will continue to stand by our veterans. We will continue to rebuild a department that was near.
The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, this minister continues to defend the indefensible on this Garnier case. Catherine Campbell was brutally murdered, put into a compost bin and dumped under a bridge. This is a one-off situation. This is a mistake by Veterans Affairs to make this decision in the first place. Yet he and the Prime Minister will not even speak to the issue of addressing it as Canadians are demanding, and especially veterans. If he's not willing to do this, it's his place in this House to resign his position.
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot discuss the details of this case without discussing the case of the veteran. And we will not. I will not discuss the case of this veteran. We will stand by veterans in this country, even in the most extenuating of circumstances, even in the most egregious of circumstances, even in these circumstances where the son of a veteran is convicted of killing a police officer. Even now, we will stand with that veteran, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. When they bought Trans Mountain, the Liberals also acquired the Puget Sound line, which sends bitumen to the U.S. And the state of Washington's Environment Department is worried. They're criticizing the serious inadequacies of the plan in case of a spill. They want to know what will happen if this heavy bitumen hits the sea and threatens species such as salmon and killer whales. Even the Americans are afraid of the Liberals when it comes to the environment.
Mr. Speaker, environmental sustainability is at the heart of everything that this government does. The decision with respect to the Trans Mountain Pipeline originally was based on an assessment with respect to the environmental considerations. We've done enormous amount of work with respect to issues associated with diluted bitumen and spills potentially in the water. We've done an enormous amount of work on ensuring that we are protecting the coast, preventing spills. We've done an enormous amount of work on recovering the killer whales and working to ensure that the measures that are being put into place will more than mitigate the impact of the excess tanker traffic. Mr. Speaker, this project is being done in an environmentally responsible way that advances Canada's economic interests.
Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
You know, when the Liberals bought a 65-year-old leaky pipeline, most Canadians thought they definitely would have a super-duper cleanup plan in case of an oil spill. Well, apparently not. Washington State is raising the alarm, saying the Liberals' emergency plan has, quote, major deficiencies in critical areas to protect salmon and whales. It's like the Liberals went out and bought a 72 Pinto, no airbags, no seatbelts, and said, kids, hop in, let's go for a ride. No parent would do this, so why did the Liberals burden Canadians with this old pipeline, didn't even bother to keep the receipt for $4.5 billion, and don't have an emergency plan to clean up a spill?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, some in the House like to engage in theatre. We like to engage in facts. So we have done the work to ensure that the process can be handled in an environmentally sustainable way. The Oceans Protection Plan is addressing concerns with respect to spill prevention, concerns with respect to spill response. We've released 3 peer-reviewed studies with respect to the impacts on marine environment. We've done an enormous amount to ensure that we're protecting the marine environment, killer whales and other species. This project is being done, has been constructed in an environmentally responsible way. We are balancing the economy and the environment, ensuring that both...
Order. Order.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil. I will ask the Honourable Member for Longueuil Saint-Hubert to remain calm.
Carry on. Christopher Garnier brutally murdered an off-duty police officer by the name of Catherine Campbell. During sentencing, the judge stated that Mr. Garnier punched her in the face, he broke her nose, he strangled her to death, and he treated her remains like garbage. Direct quote. The Prime Minister claims to be a champion of women's rights. Why then has he signed off on granting veterans benefits to a man who never, ever, ever served a single day in the Canadian Armed Forces, but killed an off-duty female police officer? Why is that okay?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, my heart goes out to the family of Constable Campbell. They should not have to endure this. They should not have to endure this case being brought out for political expediency. They should not have to endure it, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to stand by our veterans. We will continue to stand by our veterans as we have every day in this House for the past 3 years, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le Mr. Speaker, for 2 weeks now we've been interrogating the government about the case of Chris Garnier, a criminal who is receiving assistance reserved for courageous veterans. All we see is Liberal inaction. The Conservatives showed leadership when serial killer Clifford Olson was getting his old age security. We stopped that. We put an end to it. When will the minister shoulder his responsibilities, and when will he intervene personally with respect to Christopher Garnier?
Mr. Speaker, once again, even in the face of a political expediency, we will stand by our veterans. We have spent $10 billion in 3 years on our veterans and their families. We have increased benefits. We have increased services. We have increased staff. We have reopened offices. And we've given them back their ID cards, Mr. Speaker. Even in the most trying of circumstances, we will stand with our veterans.
Order. We have a member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, they may stand beside Chris Garnier, but we will stand with the victim and her family in this case, Mr. Speaker. This gentleman, Chris Garnier, was 30 years old. He never served a single day in the Canadian Forces, yet this Liberal government is using veterans' benefits to pay for his PTSD therapy. PTSD he developed because of how he killed the victim. The Prime Minister has had a month to end this outrage. So when will he finally do the right thing and guarantee that not a single cent more will go to Chris Garnier?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, those on the other side of the House had 10 years to do better by our veterans, and I wish we could only accuse them of inaction. That might have been easier. But it wasn't inaction, Mr. Speaker. It was...
I'd ask the honourable member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound, not to keep interrupting. In spite of how strongly people feel on these subjects, we have to have debate that allows one side to speak at a time and show respect for this institution and this place. The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs has 20 seconds left.
In 10 years, they stood time and again in 10 years, and they cut benefits. They cut services. They closed offices. They cut staff, and they even took away their ID card. I wish we could accuse them of inaction, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope. Order.
We are not talking about a veteran. We're talking about a 30-year-old murderer who never spent a day in uniform. The Prime Minister could have ended these payments with the stroke of a pen. Instead, he endorsed them. But we know where the Prime Minister stands, but tonight every member of this House will be given an opportunity to tell Canadians where they stand. Will a single Liberal member of Parliament stand up for what's right, or will they endorse the Prime Minister's plan of paying veterans' benefits to convicted murderers?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, one of the people at the centre of this is a veteran. And that veteran's family. And even in the most extenuating of circumstances, we will stand with that veteran, as we have stood with veterans every day when we have voted for increases to veterans' benefits, to veterans' services, when we have reopened offices, when we have increased staff. Every time we vote on the side of veterans, even in the most trying of circumstances, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Essex.
Canadians expect the Liberals to secure a new NAFTA that defends our jobs in key sectors. A new poll shows Canadians also want a deal that defends access to affordable prescription medications. But according to reports, negotiators are considering U.S. proposals that will lead to higher drug costs for Canadians and for public drug plans. I think of my constituent Cheryl. Every year, she must pay thousands of dollars out of pocket for heart and blood pressure medications. Will the Prime Minister commit that NAFTA 2.0 will not raise the cost of drugs for Canadians?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Canada-U.S. Relations.
Our government knows how proud Canadians are of our public health care system, and we're going to defend it. We also know that the affordability of and access to prescription drugs remains an important issue for all Canadians. We will continue to work with the provinces, territories and our partners to lower drug prices and provide timely access to medicines. This is an important issue for our government, and we've said such during the NAFTA discussions. Our government will always stand up for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Victoria.
Our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Canadian courts have given women the right to choose, medical assistance in dying, LGBTQ2 rights, collective bargaining rights, and more. And while the notwithstanding clause is part of the Charter, so far it's always been used sparingly, maybe no longer. Canadians are telling me just how disappointed they are that the Liberals refuse to even study the use of the clause, which lets legislatures, of course, override their rights. So what we want to know is this: why won't the Liberals even allow a study of this notwithstanding clause so we can better protect the charter rights of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental and Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been very clear. We think the notwithstanding clause should only be considered in the most exceptional of circumstances. We think that the government's responsibility is to stand up for the charter rights of Canadians. That's something that this government, Mr. Speaker, will always do. We've expressed publicly our dismay when the Government of Ontario was considering using the notwithstanding clause. Our Toronto caucus stood firmly against that position and will continue to defend, Mr. Speaker, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Honorable député de Nickel-Belt.
The Honourable Member for Nickel-Belt. Mr. Speaker, on Franco-Ontarian Day, we join the Francophones and Francophiles to celebrate culture, language, and tradition of Franco-Ontarians. Can the Minister for Tourism, Francophones, who went to a school in Orleans to make an announcement, could she inform this House of the good news that she shared during that visit? The Honourable Minister. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to congratulate the Honourable Member for Nickel-Belt, and I join my voice to his in celebrating in green and white Franco-Ontarian Day. Today, I was at Notre-Dame-des-Champs School, and I met with 310 students to announce $7.5 million for the 700 Francophone schools and 300 Anglophone minority schools in Canada, so that students have access to cultural activities. As a government, we believe in our official languages and we believe in our children.
Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Speaker, after a summer of failures, this Prime Minister still has no plan to get Trans Mountain built. Conservatives unveiled their plan. Complete Indigenous consultation immediately. Enact emergency legislation. Request a stay and appeal the federal court ruling. And pass Bill S-245 clarifying the pipeline is under federal jurisdiction. We have a plan while Liberals just delay. Will the government adopt the Conservative plan and bring jobs and investment back to Canada?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, after a decade of failure, the official opposition is still repeating the same things that they have done for a decade. Complete disregard for the federal court's ruling. Complete disregard taking action on the environmental sustainability, including the protection of the coastal communities. Complete disregard for engaging Indigenous peoples in a meaningful dialogue. We are going to move forward on this project in the right way, responding to the issues that are relevant to this decision. And we'll be announcing that plan very shortly. Thank you.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, Trans Mountain Pipeline is critical for the 43 First Nations with benefit agreements and many others. Yesterday, the leader of Canada's Conservatives announced a comprehensive plan that makes use of every tool in the toolbox to get this pipeline built. This includes meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples, which they didn't do when they just simply sent a note-taker. When will the Liberals show some leadership and announce a real plan instead of dithering along like they have been?
The member for Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that getting our natural resources to global market, non-U.S. market, is very important to create jobs and grow our economy. But we're going to do that in a responsible way. And that responsible way is to making sure that we are respecting the environment, that we're taking action on protecting our marine environment, at the same time in a meaningful consultation with the Indigenous peoples. We recognize there's diversity of opinion among Indigenous peoples, and we respect that, and we will continue to work with all of them. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Foothills.
Conservatives unveiled our plan to build the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion to the public yesterday. Our plan addresses all of the risks to build this pipeline. That's right. The Liberals have a choice. They can continue to delay this project and in doing so continue their record of failure. Or they can follow the Conservatives' plan, use every tool available to them to get this pipeline built. When will the minister start doing his job, get Canadians back to work, and get the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project underway?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what they announced yesterday was the repetition of a decade of failure, which is to ignore the direction from the courts, ignore and disregard the courts, disregard the environment, disregard the consultation with Indigenous peoples. if they follow the proper procedure, Mr. Speaker, they might have probably would have built a pipeline to get our resources to the global market. 99% of our oil is sold to one customer, which is the United States, Mr. Speaker. We need to diversify our natural resources market, and we're going to do that in a proper right.
Honourable member for Foothills.
Pipeline companies invest billions of dollars in consultants and environmental assessments, and that is just to table their proposal. They made these investments under Conservative governments because they knew Conservatives would champion these projects. But under the Liberal watch, not one single major piece of oil infrastructure has been proposed, and that is in 3 years. When will the Liberals understand that their failed policies are not getting 1 inch of pipeline built? When will they do their job, get the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion moving?
Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I think it will be beneficial for the member to understand that the decision made in 2014 to exclude from the NEB the review of the marine shipping and its impact on the environment was done under the Harper government. And court has been very clear that that was the wrong decision to make. We are going to correct that. We have directed the NEB to consider the impact of the marine shipping on the marine environment, and we're going to move forward on this project in the right way because we understand that creating jobs and protecting the environment go ahead.
Honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thousands of Canadian families have lost loved ones to an overdose epidemic this government has failed to stem. Health professionals, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, the President of the Canadian Medical Association, big city mayors and police chiefs all want to decriminalize and regulate substance use to save lives. Instead, today we see the Prime Minister sign on to the failed war on drugs approach demanded by Donald Trump. Wow. Are the Liberals truly so desperate for a new NAFTA that they are prepared to put Canadians' lives at risk to get it?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, protecting the health and safety of Canadians is my top priority. We are in a national public health crisis when it comes to the opioid epidemic, and we've seen the tragic numbers that were released last week. The numbers are more than numbers, Mr. Speaker. These are lives of Canadians. Substance abuse is an international problem, and the global call for action will help us move forward. 130 countries have signed on to the declaration, and we certainly want to be a part of that conversation. If we're not around the table, Mr. Speaker, we certainly won't be able to affect change.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, today, to the surprise of the international community and experts, the Liberals endorsed the devastating war on drugs put forth by President Trump. Trump told the UN would no longer be supporting multilateralism, would be cutting international assistance, and would be opposing the International Criminal Court. He doesn't even want to promote human rights anymore. So instead of trying to please the Trump administration, will the Liberals take a stand and condemn the American president's dangerous rhetoric? The Honourable Minister, protecting the health of Canadians is my top priority as Minister of Health. We are currently in an opioid crisis, a national crisis, and we are facing it. Last week, the figures came out and they were tragic. They're not just figures, but we're talking about lives that are being lost in this country. The use of illicit substance is a world issue, a global issue, and we need to act globally. Countries signed the declaration, and we acknowledge that there are different positions. It's impossible to make change without being around the table.
Speaker, while the Minister for Veterans Affairs has been doubling down on his ridiculous answers to our questions, his department has gone out during question period and has stated that going forward, Veterans Affairs will no longer provide treatment to any veteran's family member who is in federal or provincial prison. But the question is this, because the minister has stood here for days, for 29 days, and not answered this question, will he rescind the benefits to Chris Garnier?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I cannot talk about this case without talking about the case of the veteran. And I will stand by that veteran. I will stand by that veteran even under the most excruciating of circumstances. where a family member has committed such an egregious crime. Even then, this government will stand by them. Thank you.
Calgary Nose Hill.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, so the minister's department has gone forward and given the exact opposite answer.
Yes.
We're asking a very simple question here. They've said going forward there will be no benefits to people who are in federal prison. He has to come up with an answer to this. Will he rescind the benefits for a cop killer, Chris Garnier?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we will stand by the veteran who is at the center of this case. Our support for that veteran is unwavering. Even now, even in the most extenuating of circumstances, we will stand by that veteran.
The Honourable
Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, there are no veterans at the heart of this issue. There is just Christopher Garnier, who killed Catherine Campbell. He took her daughter away. He's receiving money from Veterans Affairs when he didn't serve a single minute, Mr. Speaker. Will the government rescind those payments, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
In the 40-plus town halls that I have done across this country with veterans and their families, I can tell you, I know the cost of 10 years of not just neglect but malice towards our veterans and their families. And I wish we had seen more of that indignation that we see today over the 10 years that these people had to do right by our veterans and our families.
Honourable Member for Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, our government is proud to have a feminist foreign policy. Gender equality produces greater prosperity and a more peaceful and secure world. Yep. At the Women's Foreign Ministers meeting in Montreal, the Minister for Foreign Affairs reaffirmed Canada's international leadership in promoting women's empowerment, gender equality, peace, and security. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs update the House on this important announcement?
Good question.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Etobicoke Centre for his tireless work on this issue. Our government knows that women are powerful agents for change and for peace. And we also know that when women are involved in the peace process, peace agreements tend to last longer. That's why the Minister of Global Affairs was proud to announce the creation of Ambassador for Women, Peace and Security. Women's empowerment is a crucial issue, and I hope that all of my colleagues in this House will join us in celebrating this important announcement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Aix-Chemin-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, 3 times I've asked the Minister of Defence and the Prime Minister to fix the fiasco with the Bastion du Roi at the Citadel. We're talking about a possible collapse based on their experts. Now, architects have talked about the original stone. Why are they taking poor quality U.S. stone? This is contempt for Quebecers and for our Canadian heritage.
The Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, we value the rich heritage of the Citadel in Quebec City. So let me be clear. We will repair the fort using original Citadel stones. In cases where damage to the original stone is too severe, a Quebec bidder has been contracted to ensure additional stones meet strict regulations. National Defence is doing its work to make sure this stone follows the requirements because we understand how important this is to Quebec City. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nanaimo Ladysmith.
The pay gap between men and women is 32%. It's even worse for women with disabilities, Indigenous and racialized women. Women are done waiting. We want economic justice now. But every day we hear heartbreaking stories about women in poverty with the same root cause, no pay equity. If Liberals were serious about gender equality, why are women still waiting for the proactive pay equity legislation they've been promised for 42 years?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with the member opposite that equal pay for work of equal value is a human right, and that's why we're so proud as a government to be moving forward with proactive pay equity legislation. It's a key way that we are demonstrating our commitment to gender equality. It's a key way that we will attempt to close the gender wage gap, and we are already working diligently. Consultations have been done, and we will be moving forward with pay equity legislation later this year. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, this week is National Coaches Week, a week to recognize coaches from coast to coast to coast and the incredible contributions to athletes, families, and communities. I'd like to thank all coaches in my riding of Brampton North, including my son's soccer coach, for their dedication and countless hours of helping our youth and athletes learn, train, and succeed. Merci de promouvoir les athletes.
Thank you for promoting young athletes throughout their lives.
Or tell this House how important coaches are to the communities in Canada.
Excellent. The Honourable Minister.
Thanks to my colleague from Brampton North for that question. Mr. Speaker, happy National Coaches Week. All over Canada, coaches give their time to help athletes and youth succeed in sport and in life. Coaches are supporters, motivators, and role models. They help athletes to dream, to set goals, believe in themselves, and to reach their full potential. Today, I ask all members of the House to join me and thank the coaches you know using the hashtag #ThanksCoach.
The honourable member for order. The honourable member for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, it's increasingly evident that the Liberal environment and energy policy is an unmitigated disaster. The Liberal carbon tax has been resoundingly rejected as just a tax on Canadians that will have literally no impact on global emissions. And even with significant Canadian taxpayer dollars spent, there is a broad consensus that we will still not meet our greenhouse gas emissions commitments. So will the government confirm today that despite all of their bluster, in fact, they will not in fact meet our Paris Agreement targets?
Well, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, this government is confident it's going to meet its Paris Agreement targets. The honourable member seemingly has not read the report from Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy that indicated that when we put a price on pollution, it's going to have a net economic benefit for middle-class Canadian families. Mr. Speaker, I invite the honourable member to get on board instead of taking money out of his constituents' pockets so he can make pollution free again.
The honourable member for La Pointe-de-l'Île. Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, the Minister for Border Security claimed that the vast majority of the 35,000 irregular border crossers have left Canada. Finally, he admitted that it's about 1%. Is there... Well, in fact, the problem there is that those people are in limbo because their files simply aren't being processed. Is there someone in the government who's aware of the situation? Is there someone who has a mandate to take action on migrants?
The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that it's important to start with the facts. We make decisions as a government based on evidence, and data shows that the number of interceptions at the border has decreased over last year. We believe, Mr. Speaker, that it's important for our government to respect Canadian law, to work with our partners, including the Quebec government and other partners, in order to respect our commitments, but also to ensure that the safety of Canadians remains a priority, and that is exactly what we're doing. The honourable member for Bécancour-Nicolet-Sorel. Mr. Speaker, last April, the government promised Quebec a program to screen immigrants in the coming week. In May, they said, oh, we'd have to wait a few weeks. End of July, we're almost there, they said. But today, there's still no plan. No plan, and Quebec is still waiting for more than $100 million in compensation for social services expenditures incurred last year alone. So I'll repeat my colleague's question. Is there anyone who has a real mandate to do something on the migrant file? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the answer is yes. My colleague, the Minister for Border Security, and I have had conversations, very encouraging discussions with the Quebec government and other partners. We have acknowledged the government's obligation to compensate the cost of temporary housing for our partners, including for the Quebec government. I've had several discussions and conversations, very encouraging ones. Quebec has been a leading partner with our government, and we will continue to work with our partners.
Violence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The urgent warnings from climate scientists are increasingly punctuated by extreme weather events, whether forest fires, floods, hurricanes, or tornadoes. But this government is prepared to spend far more on pipelines than on climate action. It's as though we really believe in reconciliation for Indigenous peoples, but first we need to build a few more residential schools. Will this government instruct the National Energy Board to include climate impacts of the pipeline we now own, as it did for private sector Energy East?
Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member from Saanich Gulf Islands for the question. We were elected on a commitment to grow the economy and protect the environment at the same time. This means we're going to take steps to get our resources to new markets while we still take steps to protect our environment and meet our Paris Agreement commitments. I note in particular, Mr. Speaker, that we're moving forward with a price on pollution that will reduce emissions. We're investing in clean technology, and we put $1.5 billion into our Oceans Protection Plan to protect our oceans and waterways. As a coastal MP in an area that the honourable member is very familiar with, this is a commitment we share, and I look forward to continuing to partner with her to move forward.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the recipients of the 2019 Inspire Awards. Barbara Todd Hager, Grand Chief Ronald Derrickson, Juju Mary Snowshoe, Dr. Vianne Timmons, Dr. Marilyn Cook, Diane Corbière, Peter Dinsdale, Brigitte Laquette, Billy Ray Belcourt, Kelly Fraser, James Lavallee, and Atawat Atiturk. Orders of the day.
Orders of the day, government orders, business of supply, resuming debate on the opposition motion regarding veterans, standing in the name of Mr. McColman.
Order. Order. I'd ask honourable colleagues to take their conversations outside, and I would include, of course, the honourable member for Cape Breton Council. I'm sure it's an important conversation, but I encourage him to continue that outside, although the honourable member for City of Victoria has some doubt about that, but I'll let those two debate that later. Resuming debate, the honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it's an honour to rise today in the House to talk about this very important topic. I think I first want to start my remarks by paying my sympathy to Constable Catherine Campbell. This was a heinous tragedy and a crime that was committed upon her, and I think that it's fair to say that the nation feels for her family and what they've had to endure over the past time since her